I did it!
Welcome to the Church of Spencetology podcast.
Well, that's an odd question. Am I wearing pants?
Of course he's not wearing pants.
Duh.
Here's your host, Spence.
Yes, it is. Hello. Church of Spencetology podcast, episode 33. How are you? How is everybody? Crazy, right? It's like a zombie movie. Yeah, of course. I'm doing this from home. Much like everybody else. Church of Spencetology music provided by Professor Blue and Castor Troy. This is called Late Night Touch. But yeah, you know, that's what radio guys and television women and anybody that's been in that kind of industry that loses their job, they do a podcast. It's kind of a right. You just have to do it. And what's funny is, because obviously you do it from home normally if you're doing a podcast, and in times like these, yes, still doing it at home. It's just funny to see all of the radio people who still are employed basically taking pictures of, hey, I'm doing this at home. There's my microphone. And then you realize, wow, it's really easy. Anybody can do this. And perhaps that's why I still don't have a job. By the way, not complaining about that. What's really interesting about the unemployment thing, because it's going on 90 days, I think. Yeah, 3 full months. And it's been very interesting. The first thing that happened is lost the job. And then, okay, you start looking. And then you realize you can't work for 3 months anyway, but you can put feelers out. You can try to find things out. And then you see that iHeart, if you don't know what iHeart is, it's a big group of radio stations and their app and whatnot. They then, had a bloodbath and fired 100 some other people. So then my job is even more difficult because there's more of me out there competing for the same job that we all want. Now, I was pretty sure I had a job starting up really quickly. Then coronavirus came. And now there are layoffs at radio stations all over the country. There are layoffs all over the world in almost every business you can think of because of coronavirus. So the unemployment's going to continue. I'm not complaining because I know a lot of people are hurting right now and they're not working and they don't know where their next job's going to be. So we'll get away from that as quickly as possible and talk about some fun stuff. Tiger King has been absolutely nuts. I wrote a really cheesy punk song about the show, about all of them, about Carol Baskin and Joe Exotic and the crazy Indian white guy who's got a harem of... You know the show. We'll talk about that coming up and how weird exotic pet owners are. And if you are one, I'm sorry, you're weird, okay? And we have to talk about coronavirus and get through a lot of the stuff that's going on. How long is it going to take? The same measures everybody's telling you about. But first, a whole host of different pastors, reverends, and whatnot telling you that you shouldn't fear the virus because God's got this.
You believe God will bring his people to his house to be contagious with the virus? Of course not. So welcome to the house of God. The atmosphere, everything in this house is the presence, the power of God. And in the presence of God, no virus can stand.
And because of the administration that stands in this land, who honor me, who honor the covenants of your forefathers and of the Constitution, and because they have aligned themselves with Israel, and because they have sided on the right side of life, life in the womb, life given outside of the womb. Therefore, I give life to this nation and I give mercy. Do not fear. This virus is the Spirit of God.
They don't want us to do this, but just turn around and greet 2 or 3 people. Tell them you love them. Jesus loves them. Amen. Listen, this has to be the safest place. I said this has to be the safest place. If you cannot be safe in church, you're in serious trouble. Serious trouble. We are not stopping anything. I got news for you. This church will never close. The only time the church is closed is when the rapture's taking place. This Bible school is open because we're raising up revivalists, not pansies.
That's lovely. You know, and listen to him cheer. We're not raising pansies. By the way, whether you're big, strong, and bold like that pastor or you're a pansy, a coronavirus doesn't really care. In order, those pastors that spoke out were first Guillermo Maldonado, who is the head of El Rey Jesus Church in, I believe, Miami. The second guy who credits Trump and our Constitution to keeping us safe from the coronavirus is a guy named Hank Kunneman. And the last guy, who's become even more famous lately, is Pastor Rodney Howard Brown. He's from the River in Tampa Bay. Okay, so let's first go back and listen to Pastor Maldonado's comments.
You believe God will bring his people to his house to be contagious with the virus? Of course not. So welcome to the house of God. The atmosphere, everything in this house is the presence, the power of God. And in the presence of God, no virus can stand.
No virus can stand, according to Pastor Maldonado. No virus can stand when it comes to God. And it would never come into a crowded church of believers, right, Pastor Maldonado? Coronavirus, you block it by going to church. Because that's what's been going on, right? There was that pastor in, was it Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Tony Spell? He had 1,800 people. He basically broke the law and science by going against Governor John Bel Edwards' demand that groups of less than, have to be less than 10. 1,800 people basically brought to his church of going against the stay-at-home order. An extreme test brought onto us by the spirit of the Antichrist and the mystery of lawlessness. No, it's just an infectious disease, Pastor. So that happened there. And Pastor Maldonado says, hey, Jesus and the church will save you. Okay. Let's talk about the First Assembly of God in Arkansas. Almost 36 people have come down with coronavirus. 3 people have died. By the way, 2 of the people that have the virus is the pastor and his wife. So that would go against what you said, Pastor Maldonado. One of the guys that died was a 91-year-old greeter, okay? So maybe coronavirus doesn't really care if you're religious or not. Well, here's some more. Pastor Ronnie Hampton in Shreveport in the New Vision Community Church, sad to say, he passed away. Isaac Graham of the Macedonia Baptist Church in Harlem, sad to say, he's died. And Leon Franklin from St. Luke Baptist Church in Baton Rouge, he's also died. This idea, and I don't stereotype all Christians or all believers or all people that have a faith in God. Cool. I'm cool with all of that. But when you allow your leaders to lead you into possible death, you're a moron. That pastor in Miami is a moron and is encouraging people to basically get sick and possibly die. Now, the guy that was at the end of that little montage that I grabbed from and now this news, follow him on Twitter, it's good stuff, is a guy by the name of Pastor Rodney Howard Brown. Again, he's the one that said they're keeping the Bible school open because they raise Christians, not pansies. He was arrested. Misdemeanor charges of unlawful assembly and violation of public health emergency order. That just happened today. Apparently, 2 misdemeanors, and he, I guess they contacted him. He was brought in. He was released, posting $500 bail, and is free to go. But they've told him no groups larger than 10. And he had 2 Sunday services of nearly 500 people each. If something happens in violation of a law, and any of those people get sick, incur health costs, or perhaps die, God forbid, as if God had anything to do with it, should he not be charged with manslaughter, murder on down the line? If you're violating the order and you allow... This pastor, Tony Spell in Baton Rouge, 1,800 people showed up at his church last week. Against what the governor said. If anybody gets sick or dies, by the way, the Rodney Howard Brown guy is encouraging people to give each other high fives and hug and the whole thing, basically saying, nah, It's not going to affect us. Oh, do you want me to read the names of the pastors that have already died because of corona? How about the ongoing number for that one pastor, Hank Kenneman, who believes because of our president and our Constitution, we're immune from the coronavirus. Oh, just so you know, Pastor, 140,904 people, that was as of this morning, have been infected. 2,405 people thus far, and that number will go up, have already died in the United States. Our Constitution, our orange-faced asshat of a president, and God does not protect you from the coronavirus. It's that simple. Coronavirus doesn't practice any religion. It ain't Muslim. It ain't Christian. It ain't Hindu. Coronavirus, COVID-19, does not believe in God. It does not give a shit about your belief system. And I gotta believe, if there is a God, and, Jesus would probably tell you, hey, man, listen to the scientists who are telling you to stay away from people for a few weeks so that you don't get sick, so that you like that 91-year-old greeter at the church in Arkansas, doesn't die. This type of stuff is ridiculous. Now, I get it. You want to get out. I have no problem with you going to the church. If that makes you feel better, it helps you get through it. If you really believe the thoughts and the prayers are going to get you through this, by all means do it. Just do it safely. Just follow the guidelines that scientists and doctors and nurses have put out there. Go to the church. Just stay 6 feet apart. Don't touch your face. If you're going to touch anything in the church, maybe bring some Purell. That's not to be offensive, but just because science dictates it, you wipe your hands, you make sure you don't touch your face. You maybe stay away from Mima and Papa's house, just because you could infect yourself. I've got no problems with the churches staying open. I have a problem with people congregating in those numbers as much as I have a problem with those moron Gen Zs down on the beaches of Florida hanging out. They're stupid. They're just stupid. But they're no more stupid than Pastor Reverend Tony Spell in Baton Rouge or Pastor Rodney Howard Brown in Tampa, gathering hundreds of people together in one spot, encouraging the spread of something that has killed over 2,400 Americans thus far. I don't even have the world numbers. It's killed thousands of people worldwide. What is wrong with you? It's killed pastors, so you're not immune to it. I didn't intend for this to be, up on my soapbox, but stop it. If you're a religious type, maybe you don't listen to your pastor. Maybe this is the time to listen to your doctor. Hey, ask your pastor about all other kinds of spiritual health, not scientific health, not the health of your body. They're not doctors of medicine. Doctors of theology, maybe, but that doesn't stop the coronavirus. Okay, off my chest. We'll talk about the happy life of the Tiger King coming up in just a moment. The Church of Spencetology podcast is brought to you by our friends at the National Basketball Association. The real heroes of the coronavirus crisis aren't doctors and nurses treating the sick or scientists working long hours to find a cure. No, the real heroes are senior citizens sacrificing their COVID-19 tests so professional basketball players could be tested first.
We lost Nana last week. Sweet Nana. But the sacrifice was worth it. Because Kevin Durant is gonna be okay.
He is. And dozens of other NBA stars have been tested, guaranteeing that basketball will live on.
I could not live with myself knowing LeBron was in danger. Long live the king!
Young millionaire athletes in peak physical condition deserve a long life too.
Papa's last words were, "Give my test to Marcus Smart. Save Marcus Smart." Who is Marcus Smart?
Thank you, Mima.
Thank you, Papa.
Seniors, you not only represent the greatest generation.
You the real MVP.
A message from the National Basketball Association.
It's the Church of Spencetology podcast with your host Spence, whose 401k is now worth $13.45.
Hold up. I just checked it. I'm up over $14. can see retirement just around the corner, baby. Church of Spencetology podcast, episode 33. And the Tiger King has taken over, man. It's taken over my life. I wrote a song, my song of the week coming up. A cheesy punk tribute to Joe Exotic is on the way. I have to say, though, and this isn't some amazing revelation, exotic pet owners are weird. They might be the weirdest of the weird. Okay, and it's not just from Tiger King. I've had experiences in my life that point to this. Back when I was a kid, I used to go to California Young World Daycare Center in Los Gatos, California. And one of the greatest teachers I had my entire life was a guy named Bruce Conrad. Awesome dude, kind of a hippie, loved the Beach Boys, or he loved the Beatles. That's what he loved. And he loved Volkswagen buses. Like I said, he's a hippie, long hair, the whole thing. One time we went over to his apartment. Don't take that creepy. It was completely harmless. But we go to his apartment, and he's a lizard guy. Mr. Conrad had like iguanas and shit, okay? And it wasn't that he had an iguana or whatever other kinds of lizards in a cage here and there. Because that's like it's weird to me, but it's a pet. If you got a bearded lizard, that's a pet. It's probably not much different than having a parakeet. Quieter, different food tastes, but not that weird, I guess. But this dude, his whole apartment was cordoned off and made to work for several iguanas, and these weren't small lizards. Okay? And what I don't understand with like lizard and snake owners, the snake people too, reptile people, you know, they're not warm creatures. They're not like a dog, you know, or even a cat. A cat will curl up on your lap and you pet the cat, and it offers some sort of, you know, relationship there. There's some quid pro quo with a dog or a cat. That's why fish, okay, you look at them, whatever. But lizards and reptiles, to me, it's weird. And if you have more than one, it's just, so he had tons of these lizards. And I always thought it was weird. And as an adult, I think it's more weird that I went over to this teacher's house, and his house was basically designed for lizards. Okay, he kind of lived around the lizards. Weird. Later in life, I met a monkey lady. And I can't remember exactly how it came about. My first part of the story was that I think there was a salesperson at KLUC who wanted to get this pet store on the air. And I, at the time, I think was the production director. I wrote commercials and produced them. So they wanted to introduce me to the monkey lady at her pet store out in, seems like it was at Centennial Hills somewhere. And she was a reasonably attractive woman, and it was fine. We went towards closing time. Now, the other part of the story says that I thought maybe I was trying to get set up with the monkey lady. Like they thought, hey, you and Spence, you know, that kind of thing. So after the shop closed, I was only there for a little bit. She said, let's go back to my place. This is why I'm confused about the story. So we go back to Monkey Lady's place. And it's Monkey Town. Okay? It is completely Monkey Town. There's rigging all over the house. Living room, stairs, bedroom, everywhere are, you know, things being suspended from the ceiling so the monkeys can get around. Now, I don't remember chimps or orangutans, not like big, there definitely weren't any apes, but, you know, like the little monkeys, the little marmoset type monkeys and Justin Bieber monkeys and those kind of monkeys. And all the monkeys had diapers, and the house smelled of monkey. Shocking, I know. But you come in and the monkeys are making all kinds of noise. I can't touch them. They can't touch me. They're in pseudo cages of some sort. They're in the rigging up above the hallways and such. But she loved her monkeys. She was a monkey lady. I remember it, and I don't know why. This is why the story gets confusing to me. I don't know why I was sitting on her bed in her bedroom. I seem to remember like something was going to happen with the monkey lady, but I was terrified. Because there's monkeys all around. And they had diapers on, so I wasn't afraid that they were going to get upset that I was with their monkey mom and doing something and they would throw poo at me or something. But they're making noise, you know? And they're looking down, and monkeys don't look happy. They look like they're going to somehow get out and scratch my eyes out. And nothing happened. I don't recall us ever doing anything. But how do you do that in a room full of monkeys? Okay? I don't understand how people have sex when their dog is in the room. That's just weird to me. Like the dog's watching, and then the dog's watching, and while you're doing it, you hear the sounds the dog makes, the licking, and you're like, I'm losing my focus. I can only imagine having sex with Monkey Lady, and the monkey, does that mean I'm doing well? Does that mean they're mad? You know? So lizard people are weird. Monkey people are weird. But big cat people, I think everybody has learned from watching Tiger King, Murder, Mayhem, and Madness on Netflix, that big cat people are the weirdest of all. Oh my God, those are the weirdest group of people I've ever seen. Just go down even the smallest characters. Now, we're not even going to talk about Carol Baskin or Joe Exotic or anything like that. But let's just say the reality TV show producer, Rick Kirkham. Okay, he apparently worked in Vegas years and years and years and years ago. He's a meth head. Not anymore, but he was. And you hear his accent. And he's got his Indiana Jones hat on, and he's talking. And you're like, by the way, not only did his films get burned up in an arson at Joe Exotic's zoo, later apparently another place he lived in burned due to arson. So did he do that? Okay, so he's a small character, but a bit of a lunatic. Okay, you got Safi, the zookeeper, who she's Hawaiian and got her arm amputated after a big cat ripped it off. Okay, and she seems to be pretty normal, but basically, because she worshipped the cats and Joe Exotic, 5 days after getting her arm amputated, was back at the zoo feeding the same cats that feasted on her arm. Then you have Tim Stark. He's got talks like this, always got a monkey on. He's always got a damn monkey on. He's always on his shoulder, always feeding a monkey, driving a truck. He's got a monkey sitting in a rocking chair. He's got a monkey. He's a guy from Indiana that has a place called Wildlife in Need. He's the guy who's talking like this. He's saying, Thomas Jefferson said, if you didn't like a law, it's your right to stand up. The whole thing. He's a lunatic. Okay? Again, smaller characters on Tiger King. Nut jobs. Then we go to Joe Exotic's first husband, John Finley. He does seem kind of normal. The guy with the meth mouth. He now has regular teeth. Okay? But still, kind of a little crazy. We find out later that, yeah, he was having sex with Joe Exotic, but he was also having sex with all the female staff on the thing. Then you have Jeff Lowe, the Vegas Dbag. Do you know who I'm talking about in this? Of all the Vegas stereotypes, this may be my least favorite. And we see this all the time. Guy that's older, wearing a bandana with a flat-brimmed Oakley hat on top. He's got his white stitch jeans. Yes, he's still wearing white stitch jeans and an affliction tee. And he's Mr. I've got money. I'm a player. He's the guy that was busted for bringing in big cats to his hotel room. He had a cat. He was trying to do an idea where he brought big cats into a party bus. I know if you're on Twitter and you follow Vital Vegas or the other guy, they're showing pictures of the actual cat bus that used to go around. Not cat like the public bus system that we used to have back in the day, but where you would get on and drink and party with a tiger kind of a thing. Bad idea. But that D-bag, he's a felon, right? And he has money, but we don't know how he got his money. He's a businessman. But he's weird. And he's got a hot wife. And they're swingers. And they're weird. Again, we haven't even got to the major characters of this show. The only ones that seem to be somewhat normal was Don, the ex-husband, disappeared ex-husband of Carol Baskin. His attorney, Joseph Fritz, seemed like a normal guy, seemed like an attorney, seemed like he knew what he did. Carol's husband currently, who is not missing yet, Howard, Seems like a rational, logical, easygoing guy. Even the homicide detective, John Marciano, I think his name is. He's cool. But then they show a picture. They're interviewing him in his. He's retired now, I think, and he's got an apartment, and he's got pictures of clowns on the wall, which in itself is a red flag, isn't it? If I come into somebody's house and they've got a lot of clown stuff and they're not a clown, it's borderline serial killer for me. So then you go into the rest of the show, because these are the most sane. And let's just hit Joe Exotic first. Okay, his name's not Joe Exotic. He had 3 husbands. He seems to help out those that a second chance that have gotten out of jail. However, it always seems to be younger men with meth problems, and then he marries them. And you know, Travis, his second husband, it was the second or third husband. He just smoked weed a lot. He seemed cool and level-headed too. He was easygoing. But this is a gay dude in Oklahoma who is apparently really good at breeding large cats. He's had a successful business for I don't know how long, right? Sold cats to everybody. He's got bleach blonde dyed hair and a mullet and earrings. We learn in the show that he's got a Prince Albert and he's got padlocks that he puts on that in itself is bizarre. He's got weird tattoos. The whole thing, he's weird, but not as weird as Carol Baskin. And there's a really good chance that Carol didn't feed her ex-husband Don to the lions. There's a chance that maybe he just disappeared. I don't know what to believe, but I don't like her. I don't trust her. She does this eye roll thing that makes me think that she shot her husband and fed him to the lions. But in her defense, her ex-husband, who was a millionaire, they estimated somewhere between $7 and $10 million. He liked to bury his money. He liked to hide his money. He used to go to Costa Rica once a month. He apparently had a girlfriend in Costa Rica. We didn't even get into Don's ex-wife and his kids with the previous marriage. They were weird too. So it's very possible that Don drove to the little airstrip in his van, left his briefcase and his keys in the van, and hopped on a flight. Maybe just to screw with Carol, so everybody would think she offed him. This was back in 1996, by the way. So we're talking 24 years. He'd be 81 now. But you would think he would show up somewhere, somehow. They would figure this out. So Carol's just weird. And I don't doubt that she's trying to help the lions and kittens and the cats and the lynx and the bobcats and whatnot. But I can't be the only one that just goes, there's something not right. She's weird. Then the weirdest one of all, man, is Bhagavan Antle, Doc Antle, the big, overweight, white guy who thinks he's Indian. And we learn that Bhagavan stands for God or Lord, and he's got the Myrtle Beach Safari, and he's got all kinds of zoo animals. And the craziest thing about this guy is he brings in young girls to his zoo, virginal preferably, teenage, and a lot of them never leave. Obviously, polygamy is not legal, but he's got basically 5 big-breasted wives. And one of the girls that kind of got stuck into it, I won't say escape, but she left. And she's like, yeah, he wanted me to have fake boobs, so I didn't really want to, but I felt like I had to, and it's crazy. And then you got the guy we talked about, Tim Stark, talks like this, always got a monkey, or there's in a truck, or he's got a monkey, he's always feeding a monkey. He's talking about, I wasn't impressed by how he could, I don't need to be taught anything about teaching big cats. I want to know how he keeps his women in line. Oh my God. Straight out of the 1950s with this guy. But Bhagavan, and he's been quite successful as well. He's the tiger in Hangover. That was his tiger. And the Jim Carrey movies. And he's done Hollywood work for years. But he's got this harem, and they all have their individual houses on the property. And they go, and he's weird. Are all exotic pet people like this? Do you get to a certain point where you're like, okay, well, I've got 14 big cats now. I'm one of them. Could you fall in love with an exotic pet person? Because you realize that they love their animals first. You're second. You're always second in the marriage, right? They're going to love the tigers and the lions and the bobcats and the pythons and the elephants. They're going to love all of that stuff more than you, which may be what happened to Dawn, Carol Baskin's ex. I don't love you anymore. I need to keep this going with your money. Fed to the tigers. Could you fall in love with an exotic pet person? Now, if you're already one that loves snakes and you're marrying a snake guy, I guess it works out. Maybe you get more snakes together. If you're a big cat lady, then maybe you want to, marry a big cat guy, get into the family business. The craziest thing about Tiger King is the most sane, most logical, normal person on that entire show was Mario. Who's Mario? He's Mario, the lion-loving drug kingpin, drug trafficker who was sentenced to 100 years in prison. A guy they liken to the real-life Tony Montana. That guy, the drug dealer, busted. Years ago, he's got a lion habitat, and he's the most normal one? That show is absolutely nuts. So in honor of Tiger King and America's obsession, especially while being quarantined, here is an original song, your song of the week. And yes, it is called, Tiger King.
Joe Exotic, so erotic, mullet so hypnotic, Tiger King. Gun lover, two husband, gay dude, lion coming, Oklahoma, redneck, red state, rib jeans, boots and earrings, Tiger King. Tiger King, Tiger King. Dudes are big cats, get lots of ass. Tiger King, Tiger King, Tiger King. Dudes are big cats, get lots of ass. Carol Baskin, husband vanishing. What the fuck happened, Tiger King? Fed him to the lions, she's lying. You can see it in her eyes, but there's something that she's hiding. I'm bored trying to find it. Tiger King, Tiger King, Tiger King. Chick's a badass, gets lots of cats. Tiger King, Tiger King, Tiger King. Chick's a badass, gets lots of cats. And we didn't talk about that fucking weirdo doc. He's got a fucking harem of big-breasted women. I guess that only proves that dudes are big cats, get lots of ass. Tiger King, Tiger King. Dudes are big cats, get lots of ass. Tiger King, Tiger King, Tiger King. Dudes are big cats, get lots of ass. Tiger King.
It's the Church of Spencetology podcast. It's scientifically proven that dudes with big cats get lots of ass.
There you go. Alexa said it. Must be true. Thank you to Jim Dooley. He's got the drums on the Tiger King track. Song of the week. A new song every single week. Make sure you follow, subscribe, do all that nonsense on all the social media platforms. Alexa, tell you more.
Follow Spence on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Spencetology at SPENCETOLOGY. And check out Spencetology.com.
Yeah, lots of new content there. Bits, songs, videos, Spencetology.com. Thank you to Professor Blue and Castor Troy for the track, Late Night Touch. Hey, man, stay healthy. Stay safe. Love you. Thanks for listening to the Church of Spencetology podcast.